Hey guys, back with a new video talking about cylinder heads. So I did a ton of research on which heads to go with this particular build. Ultimately decided to try to improve my compression through a set of cylinder heads, and I found a local set, some number 15 heads, and these were kind of unique because they had the lower compression at 87 cc, but still had the smaller valves, the 1.96 intake, 1.66 exhaust, which is exactly what I had on my 46 heads. So I picked them up and figured I'd swap the valve train over, clean them up real nice. They were in decent shape. They were pretty rough, actually, dirty-wise, but I knew I could, as long as they were flat still and everything looked pretty good, try to restore these things and bring them back to life and see what we can do with that. Did a ton of research on these. Everybody kept saying, go with 6X, go with this and that. And I compared the flows from my old 46 heads because I was so impressed by their performance, and they actually flowed better on the top end than the 6X heads. And the 6X heads still only had a 94 cc chamber, which was not, that was only 2 cc smaller than the 96s on the 46 heads. So I wanted something that had an even smaller compression chamber. I think Pontiac was onto something here with these, smaller compression chamber heads, but with the smaller valves. The flow velocity seems to be more, and that almost plays more in part than the overall flow volume. And these particular heads, these number 15s, were off of a 455, which was rated 360 horsepower in 1969. So one of their highest horsepower engines had these 15 heads on it. So I'm anxious to see what the results are going to be from this, and there's absolutely hardly any documentation on the flow charts of these heads or anything like that. So I'm anxious to see how they perform. I think I'm going to see quite a big increase here in performance. I don't get too hung up on like the valve size and things like that. Pontiac designed things in such a way that I don't think a lot of people completely understand. And cylinder heads are one of those very complex things. People tend to look at just flow charts on paper and automatically think, oh my gosh, they got a ton of power because they flow so well. Well, that's not exactly the case all the time. So here's a set of heads. I started disassembling them, took the valves apart, started cleaning everything up with a very soft wire wheel. And I was overall able to get all the carbon buildup off of them and the dirt and the grime. I pressure washed them, soaked them, scrubbed them. I mean, I literally did everything I could. I tested the valve clearances within the valve guides, and Pontiac had these stainless valve guides in there, these cast steel valve guides in there, and they were actually pretty durable back in the day. So not too concerned with that. I had absolutely no play whatsoever in the valve guides. So I kind of did this budget DIY, head restoration. And the reason I didn't sink a ton of money into these and do a 3-angle valve job and take them to the machine shop and completely work them over is honestly, I'm not sure if I want to stick with these. I'm still on the fence about going with aluminum someday. I just don't know exactly which route I want to take. So I just wanted to see what kind of performance I got out of these. The original valves I was able to restore, and these are actually pretty hard to find new, and you're paying a pretty good amount of money for them. So anything that I could bring back to life, I did. And as you can see, they lapped up and cleaned up extremely well. But I definitely put some serious elbow grease into them. I got them pretty much to the point of getting ready to put completely back together. I actually went ahead and sprayed them. Just a few tips when it comes to restoring these old cylinder heads. Of course, you got to make sure they're flat. I used a couple different straight edges just to verify the bottom deck surface was completely flat, nothing noticeable with any kind of feeler gauges. I let the valves soak in parts cleaner, and then just took a very gentle scrub to them. I used some very fine copper and wire wheels to clean up the combustion chambers. Don't use anything super abrasive or anything like that, and just take your time. I did very mild polishing of some sharp edges within the heads. You can get away with doing that. Just don't go crazy with that kind of stuff. With the valves, I actually attached them to a drill just with a piece of cloth in there, not to mar them up. And then I ran them over a Scotch-Brite pad Don't go super high speed on them, but you know, enough to clean them up, and I'm not pressing hard at all on there. This is just cleaning up the very light crud that was left behind. You know, once again, take your time. You don't want to jack up the valve or anything like that. Take too much material off. And then you can see here, this was the carbon deposit before, and then here's the after shot. So it actually shined it up really nicely and definitely good enough for a rebuild. And then I put in some replacement valve guide seals. I actually found these on eBay. It's recommended in some of the manuals that you upgrade to a Viton seal, but you have to take your heads to a machine shop to have them re-mill the valve guides to take those. Definitely can do it. In my opinion, if these held up for 50 years, they did a pretty good job. Here you can see I got my first spring installed. We should have these put together here pretty soon. So stay tuned. Hope you guys got some tips, and good luck to y'all.